In this video, we'll go through all the different Wi-Fi 7 devices from Unifi, including installing the brand new Pro XG. Yes, there are a lot of new Wi-Fi 7 devices from Unifi, and if you're confused about what they all do, you are not alone. I certainly have been and probably still is. So in this video, I'm going to go through all of the different Wi-Fi 7 devices from Unifi, tell you sort of what they do, what they're for, pros and cons, and we'll also install the brand new Pro XG because I haven't done that yet, so this was a good video for that. If there is a video for the device that we're talking about, it will be down below in the description because there's just too many videos to put up on the screen as I talk about them. But I think first step is just to get this out the box and see what it is, because it's new. All right, let's get the box. You know what that means. Ready? Whee! Never gets old. Maybe it does. XG, the Pro XG from Unifi. There's not much to it. It is just an access point. But if you haven't seen this yet, there's a new industrial design. Looks like that. So no more sort of UFO, you know, sort of curvy shape. This is flat. Now the reason they've done this from Unifi is that these now that's a heat sink, so the heat, it dissipates much better, and no more fans. There's no fan in this. But yeah, that's all there is to it. Now, this is a 10 gigabit device. So you can see there's a RJ45 plug. You can put 10 gigabit into that. It needs PoE Plus to power it. And that is why it's called the XG. X for 10G, 10G. Pro XG, Pro 10 gigabit. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So let's just see what else is in the box. There is a template for mounting it, because this has a new mount that I haven't seen before, apart from on the Pro XGS, which looks the same but has a spectrum analyzer in it, S for spectrum, which looks like this. So we're going to put that up. It is smaller than the previous metal mount, but it's metal. So yeah, it's not hard to put up. But anyway, we're going to install that. And then there's the usual screws and whatnot for mounting it in different types of locations and into different materials. And also, it is worth noting that, where is it? Hello? These things, the security taker outer tool is much longer because of the new design. So yeah, just bear that in mind. But that's all there is in the box. So let's take the Pro XG and install it. Up there is my last Nano HD access point, Wi-Fi 5. Which I have. I used to have 5 of them. They've been performing really well, but it is time to upgrade to the Pro XG and get some Wi-Fi 7 goodness in this end of the house as well. So that's the plan. It is way up there, so I'm going to need a really tall ladder, and I don't like this job. Let's have a quick look at what the Pro XG looks like in Unifi Network. So it is here. I've renamed it to Bedroom U7 because that's where it is. And it's probably not going to be any surprise. It looks like a Unifi access point, but let's just go through the things here. We have, of course, the different bands that it's available on. So we have 2.4, 5, and 6 gigahertz. And there's a 2x2 antenna on each of those bands. And it's Wi-Fi 7. You see, currently there are 4 devices connected on the 2.4. So not too busy right now. Then we have which clients, of course, like any other access point. And then we have here the model, which is the U7 Pro XG. And then the details for that. The Wi-Fi experience on 2.4 gigahertz for some reason is highlighted here. I'm not sure why that is specifically putting here. They seem to change this around a bit. And we have here the air stats as well. So you can see that I have been using it for a couple of days, and it is it's performing pretty well. There's not a lot of traffic in that end of the house. Usually the things that connect are mostly IoT devices or my phone if I'm in there. So that's sort of the things. You can see here the transmit power. I've now learned what the difference is. So the transmit power is the power from the actual antenna that's on there in the device, and the EIRP is with an external antenna. So obviously there's another little antenna on there for the signal. So those are the two values that you get. But decent signal. It's pretty good coverage, this access point actually. And then we have what it's connected to. It's on my primary, the 24-port Max, Pro Max device or switch, and it's on 2.5 gigabit as expected. It's using about 10 watts. So newer access points seems to be upping the power. So this is PoE Plus, as I showed you at the start, that you need to power it with. And we are just getting more and more power hungry in terms of devices as we add more and more things to them. If you have the spectrum analyzer, like in the XGS access point, the power consumption is more like 13, 14 watts, and it can even go higher. So just something to bear in mind, that we are starting to see more and more watts being used, and your PoE budget needs to obviously grow with that as well. All right, let's go to some of the insights here. There is a fair bit of interference on my 2.4 gigahertz rather, Wi-Fi network, because I have so many IoT devices that all are shouty and sending lots of stuff. I have some ideas how to try and minimize that based on your comments. So if you have ideas about that, please do put them down below in the comments, because that would be much appreciated. But something about lowering the signal strength on the antennas, etc., might help that. But yeah, there is a lot of interference. In contrast to the 5 and 6 gigahertz, there is nothing, right? They're hardly utilized right at this moment. We have no history, and the system stats are just the CPU and memory, like normal. Again, I don't hardly ever look at that unless something is not working. The settings for this, we have a name. I've renamed it Bedroom U7, and then we can set the radios as well. I always have 2.4 gigahertz on 20 megahertz just because there's so little room on that band, and lots of devices only use 20 megahertz anyway, because of the low bandwidth that's needed. So I always leave it at 20 in order to not have too many overlaps and conflicts and interference even more, right? Here's the transmit power I just talked about. I might try and start playing with some of that to try and get that interference down, but I haven't quite got there yet. 5 gigahertz, I usually run it at 80. You can do 160 megahertz, but again, then you only have room for one band. And if I then have access points that are overlapping in the signal, then it starts creating interference as well. And if you have neighbors as well, you might want to even go down to 40 or 80, depending on what bands and channels they're using for their 5 gigahertz. And then of course we have 6 gigahertz, where the new Wi-Fi 7 has 320 megahertz connection. Now, unfortunately, my Google Pixel 9 Pro XL, which is a fantastic name, rolls off the tongue, only supports 120 megahertz on Wi-Fi 7, but if you have a device that can use 320 megahertz, you can enable that with, because we have so much bandwidth now on 6 gigahertz, and you should get a faster connection. But yeah, my device uses 160, but I'm still going on 320 just because there's no point not to. I don't have any overlaps. 6 gigahertz doesn't have a long range, and there's so much room on that band, as I said, so you can easily do that. And then we have whether we want, can it be a mesh parent? I've just added that for the minute, mainly because it might be using it for a device bridge. Yeah, don't put mesh on if you don't need it, because it creates more noise. And then we have IP settings and the LED and standard management stuff here as normal. So that's it. Now there's one more thing I want to show you, and it's over here under settings, because to get full advantage of Wi-Fi 7, we need to go in here under Wi-Fi and then choose the SSID that is currently supporting 6 gigahertz, one or more of those. And you need to enable MLO, multi-link operation, if you want to use it. Right, so this is going to be enabled on all of the U7 access points for that SSID. And when you add that, you check that box, you click save, it is going to restart all of those and reconfigure everything to enable it. So there might be a bit of interruption, but you need to enable that in order for that to be a feature of your Wi-Fi 7 install. It says, we strongly recommend using MLO as a separate Wi-Fi broadcast for MLO supported clients. And I kind of have that. right? Because I have WPA3 on this particular SSID, Llamas in the Fast Lane, because I used that for like way back when I was enabling the 6 gigahertz band, and you can't really connect IoT devices to this because very, very few of them will support WPA3 authentication. So just something to bear in mind. If you want to use MLO, you have to use WPA3, and you have to have a 6 gigahertz. Well, you don't have to have 6 gigahertz enabled, but that is one of the things you can enable as well then. So just something to bear in mind. Now, before we get into all the Wi-Fi 7 devices, let's just briefly cover what Wi-Fi 7 is and why you should care. So in general, there are 3 different things that consumers and people like me are kind of interested in with Wi-Fi 7. First of all, there's the 6 gigahertz band. We finally have a new band. Well, it was actually also available in Wi-Fi 6E, but anyway, we now have a 6 gigahertz band, which allows us to have wider channels or wider bands on these channels for our devices. So we can use 320 megahertz bands now, which of course means more data can get through. Now, you do need a device that supports 320 megahertz band on the 6 gigahertz Wi-Fi network, as well as Wi-Fi 7. But that is that's coming more and more. More and more devices do have that. So the larger channel width on the 6 gigahertz band is a big thing for a lot of people because we don't have any interference on 6 gigahertz. Now, 6 gigahertz is less range. That's kind of being addressed with a new 6 gigahertz standard that you can use outdoors because currently it's only for indoors use, but we do have 6 gigahertz. Number 2 is multi-link operation. And this is a technology where you can combine 2.4, 5, and 6 gigahertz bands in the same connection. So your device can be connected to all 3 bands at the same time. And of course, that again gives you greater throughput and more flexibility. So that's really neat. When that comes into full effect with all the devices, that's going to be a real difference, I think, with the Wi-Fi 7. And then the third thing is 4K QAM. Yeah, it sounds very technical, but QAM is amplitude modulation. Anyway, that thing right there, that is what 4K QAM is short for. It just means that you can have more bits in each transmission between device and Wi-Fi network or access point. So 4096 bits in this case. The downside is you need a much stronger or better signal to carry all of that detail because of course it's finer grained, but it does mean you have much better throughput as well for when you can support 4K QAM. So those are the 3 things that really makes a difference in general for Wi-Fi 7. There are other things that are different for Wi-Fi 7 as well, but I have a link down below in the description for the overview of Wi-Fi 7 technology, so go and read that if you want to know more. Right, now let's go and look at some of all the devices. Now might be a good time to consider subscribing to the channel because I am going for 50,000 subscribers this year in 2025 and I could really need your help. So if you're enjoying the content and you want to support the channel, that is a great way. You can click that little subscribe button. There's other ways you can support the channel as well. You can leave a comment or a thumbs up, that would be much appreciated, or you can check out the merch, which is down below as well, or you can become a member. You can become a member of the channel and you will get access to behind the scene things, and I'm going to set up some live streams and there'll be early access to videos and all sorts of other things that I'm make up as I go really, but a bit of extra content, a bit of extra value if you want to support the channel, and I really appreciate it. So thank you very much. All right, let's get into the devices. For each of the devices, I'm going to cover about 4 points because we can't go through all the specs for each because we don't have 6 hours of video. No, let's not do that. I am going to cover the uplink speed, so the connection to the access point. I'm going to cover the antennas and the bands and sort of how it connects to your device. So that is whether it has 6 gigahertz, because they don't all do. It's how many antennas are on it and etc. Those sort of things. I am going to be using notes because I cannot remember all of these details. We're going to talk about range and coverage, number of devices, square meters, that sort of stuff. And we are going to then look at a use case for this access point. Like, why would you use it? What is the real world application of this? which may or may not align with where I have it. But anyway, that's a different story. But we're gonna start with the E7 range. So not U7, but E7. These are the enterprise access points, and I don't have any of them. So let's be clear on that. It's a little bit out of my league in terms of, well, not so much what I need, but what I have been able to, get for review or buy or whatever. So the first one is the E7, and that is a 10 gigabit uplink device. It's right there. And it is designed for very large applications, like very large installations. It can support 1,000 clients, 1,000 plus clients. That's a lot, probably a bit more than I will ever have here, right? It says the coverage area is 185 square meters. I have seen reports on Reddit and in other places of anecdotal evidence of people using it where they cover a lot more, and it's very impressive. So it has, of course, 6 gigahertz, but it has a 4x4 antenna on that, so that's pretty powerful. We can remember, depending on your device, you can use more of those. Most devices now can support 2x2, so use 2 streams at the same time. It has a 4x4 5 gigahertz and a 2x2 2 gigahertz antenna. So that's pretty impressive. Where would you use this? Large office spaces, probably. It is an indoor device, so campuses, that sort of stuff, universities probably. I think that's the aim of that, right? The next E7 is the E7 campus, right? So that is an even bigger access point. This has also a 10 gigabit uplink, so again, it supports 10 gigabit. It also has support for up to 1,000 plus devices, and it has the same number of antennas, 4x4 on 6 on 5 and 2x2 on 2.4 gigahertz band. But the difference here is the coverage. So the E7 was about 185 square meters, is what they said, at least Unifi. This one is rated at 465. And it is a monster. Yeah, it is a very capable, obviously, indoor-outdoor access point. And you would use this, well, outdoor. You would, you can cover stadiums with this. Well, speaking of that, the third E7 device is the E7 Audience, which looks even more impressive. It reminds me of the previous XG access point as well, actually. This is again, indoor-outdoor, a 10 gigabit uplink as well, and it has a 12 stream antenna, so it has even more antennas on it. This has a 4x4 low and high band 6 gigahertz. So this is the new 6 gigahertz standard that's coming out, that's sort of in, I should just say that this E7 Audience is coming soon. It hasn't actually launched, but it's on the website, so I'm covering it, right? It has a 12 stream, 5 gigahertz, 6 gigahertz, and no 2.4. So this doesn't cover 2.4. This is meant for high bandwidth, large application implementation. And where would you use it? Well, same, I think. You would use it in very large stadiums and auditoriums and like huge implement. Well, you need a lot of bandwidth for a lot of people or a lot of devices is where you would use it. So I think that's the E7 range. Again, I don't have any of them. If anyone wants to send me one, I'll be happy to test them out. But yeah, that hasn't been on my schedule to review those or put those up on the farm. So that's the E7 range. This is my U7 Pro XGS. So the X is for 10, Roman numerals, 10 gigabit, 10G, and the S is for spectrum analyzer because that has one of those. This is probably the top of the line U7 Pro prosumer consumer access point right now. This has that new flat design, which is I quite like actually. It's growing on me. It's quite nice. Much better heatsink, no fan, so that's really quite nice. It has an 8x8 antenna, so 2x2 on the 6 gigahertz, so it has 6 gigahertz. It has 4x4 on the 5 gigahertz and 2x2 on the 2.4 gigahertz, and the coverage is about 160 square meters. There's plenty for this cottage or this my office here that is in, which is like an old converted wool shed. Use case, well, as it says here on the website, the number of connected devices is about 500. So this, I would say, is for like dense offices, large office populations would benefit from this. The spectrum analyzer, I think, is really neat if you are in an environment where there are a lot of access points, a lot of interference. You can actually figure out where this interference is and where you can place this on, on which radio bands with the best results. So I would say that's probably what it's for. I'm using it here in my office where I have maybe 20 devices connected to it, if I'm lucky. But that doesn't stop me from reviewing it, from using it and enjoying it. So that's the XGS. Yes, we got way up there. We got the XG that we just installed. Now the XG is, well, X is 10, G is, well, G, so 10 gigabit connection. Is that what that has? I can give it 2.5, but it is capable of running at 10 gigabit. This is sort of the younger brother to the XGS that we just saw. So this has a 6x6 antenna, 2x2 on each of the 3 Wi-Fi bands. So it does have 6 gigahertz, where the XGS of course had 8x8. And then the coverage of this is about the same, so about 140 square meters, and it can support up to 300 devices, which is, pretty decent. Not bad at all. You would use this when you don't need the spectrum analyzer, or you don't need the 4x4 on 5 gigahertz connection of the antenna on that band. Then you would consider the XG instead of the XGS. Of course, it still has 10 gigabit uplink, and it still has the new design, form factor, which, yeah, as I said, I quite like. It's really growing on me, so we'll see if there's more of those coming out. I like that it has no fan, and I like the heatsink sort of design. So yeah, that's the XG. That is the U7 Pro Max, and that has a 2.5 gigabit uplink, which is connected to my Pro Max 24 switch, which has 2.5 gigabit, and it is an 8x8 device, so 2x2 on 6 gigahertz, so it has that. 4x4 on 5 gigahertz, which is nice because a lot of devices use 5 gigahertz, especially inside a house, and 2x2 on 2.4 gigahertz. It covers 160 square meters, but I actually found that it covers a lot more. I found there's particularly, the range is very good on this, and it's a Pro Max because it has the 2 extra 5 gigahertz antennas compared to the Pro, but also it has a spectrum analyzer. So that is just like the XGS has a spectrum analyzer, so you can use this to figure out where things are interfering and where you might want to place your device on a better band. So that is actually quite a neat tool. So that has that. So why would you use this? Well, it's sort of similar to the Pro. You want to have that extra bit of coverage, that extra bit of device connectivity, so like 500 devices this supports, and maybe you want the spectrum analyzer. If you're in an area where there is particularly a lot of interference, that might actually give you a benefit, figure out where to place your access points in terms of bands and radios, right? So that's the U7 Pro Max. That's the U7 Pro. And the Pro's always been sort of the go-to for sort of the consumer that wants a bit more oomph, right? So it has a little bit more power than the lower price. So we always sort of gone for that. But in this case, this does have 6 gigahertz. It has a 2x2 antenna on 6 gigahertz, 2x2 on 5, and 2x2 on 2.4. It's getting hard to say that. So it is fully Wi-Fi 7. It's got all the bands. It can support up to about 300 connected devices, and it says here about 140 square meters of coverage. So pretty decent for a standard house. You would probably need 1, maybe 2 of those, and you'd be good. You'd cover everything you'd ever put on that network. It is of course connected by 2.5 gigabit, so that's connected here to the Pro Max 16. So that's running nicely at that. Why would you use this? Well, I kind of already covered that. It's sort of more for the prosumer, hence the Pro moniker. There's always been a Pro access point as far as I can remember, and it's always been sort of hey, I don't want the lowest, I don't want to pay for enterprise, but I want somewhere in between, and often the Pro is the right choice for that. So that's the U7 Lite. That is currently the cheapest Wi-Fi 7 device from Unifi, or cheapest in general. I think I still haven't found any that are under $100, because that is $99 US. Now there is a few caveats with that price point. Now it is Wi-Fi 7, it does support multi-link operation, and as far as I know 4K QAM, but it does not have the 6 gigahertz band. And to many, I've got in the comments when I did the video, people say, that's not a Wi-Fi 7 device then. And well, it is, but I understand what you're saying. It is nice having a 6 GHz band. It is one of the main reasons that we update to Wi-Fi 7. So this is a 2.5 gigabit uplink, which is becoming standard. 2.5 gigabit is very much what I've seen every single device being on, unless it's 10. It has a 4x4 antenna, so it has 2x2 on 5 gigahertz and 2x2 on 2.4 gigahertz. So it is not a device that is meant for large deployments. It has a much lower coverage as well. It's about 115 square meters and supports up to about 200 devices. So this is very much your at-home implementation for your standard Wi-Fi usage. For us Wi-Fi nerds, we kind of want 6 gigahertz. So that's the use case for, it's just a standard deployment. It's what I put up in my parents' house if I had to, right? It's kind of what it is. So that's the U7 Lite. And then we get to our U7 wall unit. So here's the U7 Pro wall. This is a, well, wall mounted, as you can see, it sits on the wall. It's a 6x6 antenna, so 2x2 on each of the bands. So it does have 6 gigahertz. Yay! This can support up to about 300 devices, and it is connected by 2.5 gigabit as well. So that's really performing well. Now this has a coverage of about 140 square meters, which seems about right. It's in this part of the house. There's only one access point sort of bit that way, and it's actually covering really well. A lot of devices choose to connect to this. It's always very busy, so for some reason its devices seems to like this better. Don't know why. This is the Pro version, and this has a few party tricks. So you might ask, why would you use it? Well, obviously you can mount it on the wall. You can also get this. You can get a Pro wall table stand for it. So you can actually have it just sitting on the table if you have connection to it there. That could be in an office or on your desk or whatever. So you don't have to put it on the wall. You can also get a cover for it that you can paint. So a paintable cover, so it almost disappears, and you can mount it in the wall rather than on the wall. So it's quite versatile. So a lot of different ways that you can use this Wi-Fi 7 device. And now there's also this, which is the U7 in wall. So Pro wall, in wall. I know, naming's hard. This is sort of the younger brother. The main reason you would choose this is if you don't like 6 gigahertz. No, this does not have 6 gigahertz. It is a lot cheaper though. It's about half the price of the Pro wall, I think. But it does not have 6 gigahertz. It's still Wi-Fi 7. It is still a Wi-Fi 7 device, just not with the 6 gigahertz band. So this is just an alternative that you could mount as well. I haven't actually installed it yet, so it's still in the box. I haven't even got to that, but I wanted to show you anyway. Now the U7 in wall has a little bit of a party trick over the Pro wall. So no, it doesn't have 6 gigahertz, but it does have 2 ports at the bottom of it for output, one of them being with PoE. So you can actually get, you can power other devices directly from the U7 in wall. So that's kind of neat. But those are currently the 2 wall devices with Wi-Fi 7 that Unifi offers. That's the U7 outdoor, and it is probably one of my favorite access points still. But yeah, more of that in just a second. This is, well, for outdoor use, obviously. It has a 2.5 gigabit uplink, which again is pretty standard. And it covers, ready for this? 465 square meters, but it's more than that. If you watch my video on my test of this access point, it has an omnidirectional and a directional antenna. And with the directional antenna, I got up the hill like 200 meters away easily. And I still had 5 gigahertz connection. It's pretty impressive. This does not have 6 gigahertz either. It has a 2x2 antenna on 5 and a 2x2 antenna on 2.4 gigahertz. And the reason it doesn't have a 6 gigahertz antenna is that every single country does not allow 6 gigahertz outside, apart from a bit of a test in the US, so it's coming. But right now, no, you cannot use 6 gigahertz outside here in Australia. So that is why it doesn't have it. And I'd rather have the range outside almost currently anyway, because there's so few devices on 6 gigahertz. But yeah, the use case is, if you have lots of area, lots of space to cover, that is your device outside. I've covered, I don't know, about 30 acres in Wi-Fi so far. I'm going for the full 50, and I'll get there, but that's a different video. So that's the U7 Outdoor. And there's also a U7 Outdoor Pro coming, which will have the 6 gigahertz band. It's on the website, you can go and check it out. Let's just say U7 Pro Outdoor. It's what it's called. And it'll have a 2x2 for 6 gigahertz, 2x2 for 5, and 2x2 for 2.4 gigahertz. So it's coming, but we got to get the legislation there as well before we can use it. And that's it. Those are all the current Wi-Fi 7 devices from Unifi. I don't have the enterprise one, so again, if anyone wants to send me one, you'd be my friend forever. I'd love to try it, especially the Enterprise 7. I think that would be a very interesting test. Yeah, which one is your favorite? There's so many to choose from now. There's the Lite for like entry level, then there's a Pro Max. You can get the Spectrum Analyzer and the Pro Max and the XGS. You can get in-wall U7 access points. You can get outdoor ones. Like, there's so much to choose from now. So I hope this has been useful as a bit of an overview of where one might, where each one might fit in and which one you might need for your setup. But let me know in the comments anything I missed, any questions you've got, compare one to the other. I'm happy to try and figure those things out because I learned from that too. And as always, if you enjoy the content, please do consider subscribing because again, I'm going for 50,000 this year and I would love to have you as part of the community. So thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video.